Guard your heart above all else, for it determines the course of your life. That verse is one that I completely misunderstood, and I didn't realize it until recently, because I always interpreted guarding your heart as protecting yourself from getting hurt. Like, watch how much love you give out, watch how you show your feelings, because being vulnerable in that sense, it can lead people to take advantage of you. It can lead people to hurt you. It opens the door to potentially getting hurt. And so I always interpreted guard your heart as, draw back a little bit. Withdraw yourself from showing love. Withdraw yourself from being sensitive. And while I was reading Proverbs and reflecting on it, I realized that interpretation of guarding your heart doesn't align with Christ. It doesn't align with him, because the Lord tells us, love your enemies, love those who do wrong to you, forgive others. If someone slaps you on one cheek, turn the other way and let them slap the other cheek. I feel like the last thing that the Lord wants to do is to hide ourselves, is to hide who we really are, is to not be truthful about who we are. I feel like the last thing that he would want us to do is to withhold our love from other people. Because as it talks about in 1 Corinthians, love is patient, love is kind, love is not self-seeking. Withholding yourself and withholding your feelings because you're afraid of getting hurt is self-preservation, which is self-seeking. Love is not self-seeking. So, realizing that, what does guarding your heart actually mean? Essentially, it doesn't mean to hide your feelings. It doesn't mean to hide your heart. It doesn't mean to not be sensitive. Sensitivity is a big thing that I feel like I was so insecure about. Why do I feel things so deeply? But nothing is wrong with being sensitive. In fact, being sensitive is such a good thing, because Christ himself was sensitive. He was the most sensitive person to ever walk this earth. He was so understanding and empathetic and kind in ways that we cannot understand. And so, again, guarding your heart does not mean to not be sensitive. It doesn't mean to protect your heart from getting hurt, because that in itself leads to self-destruction. It is harmful to us to protect ourselves in that way, because when we withhold ourselves from making moves that could lead to failure, that could lead to rejection, that could lead to getting hurt, not physically hurt, but emotionally hurt, we don't take risks. And it talks about it all over Ecclesiastes, especially, where if we don't take risks, if we wait for perfect weather to plant our crops, we will never go anywhere. We will never reap any sort of harvest. And that is so important to our walk with the Lord, because risk is one of those things that he takes into account. Because taking risks shows that you trust him. Taking risks when things seem so uncertain, when you don't know what's going to happen, and when you know you're being obedient to him and you're taking that chance anyway, you're showing him your faith. You're showing him that you trust him. It says to walk by faith and not by sight. When we don't know what we're heading into, and the only thing we're leaning on is him, he sees that and he loves that. And by protecting yourself from experiencing that loss, experiencing that failure, experiencing that rejection, because you're afraid of getting hurt. You're avoiding embracing what the Lord calls us to do, which is to have blind faith and to trust Him even when we cannot see what's going on, and to trust that He has everything worked out for us, that His ways are higher than our ways, that we trust His timing, and we trust the road that He's going to take us down. And not only that, but we're showing Him that despite getting hurt from others, despite not receiving that love back, we're still going to open our hearts and show love towards others, because that's what He wants us to do. So yes, it doesn't mean protect your heart from getting hurt. That's not what guarding your heart means. Guarding your heart essentially means to be aware of what's coming into your heart. This can mean what temptations you surround yourself with, what your environment is like, what media you're consuming. Media is a big thing, because that's seeing and hearing. Media is one of the biggest things that I feel like, for me personally, and for others as well, like, we need to be very mindful of what we consume online. And that's what guarding your heart is talking about. It's not talking about being stoic and silent and not showing your feelings. It's talking about be mindful of what you let influence you. Be mindful of what you let enter into your heart, because your heart is the center of your emotions. It's the center of your feelings, your thoughts, your reasoning, and Christ dwells within our hearts. But so do things in the world. And when we consume things of the world that introduce temptation, that introduce evil, that introduce worldly habits, a worldly mindset, our spirit and our flesh begin to battle. Going down this road is not easy. There's always going to be some sort of tension between our spirit and our flesh. Unfortunately, we cannot avoid that. But what we can do is protect ourselves the right way, not the way we were talking about before. And so that's why the word says to guard your heart. It's saying to choose wisely. If you have, because I understand there are some situations that you don't have control over. There are some factors in your life, like your environment, that you cannot avoid. And that's understandable. But for the things that you can control, for the things that you can choose to surround yourself with, choose wisely. And be mindful of how certain things impact your heart. And one of the ways you can tell if something is impacting your heart is by how you're speaking, how you're thinking and how you're speaking. I feel that another reason why the word emphasizes to guard your heart, for it determines the course of your life. I believe another translation is guard your heart, for what you do flows from it, or something like that. I'll put it here. That is so important, because your heart determines your speech. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. And your tongue holds so much power. Your speech holds so much power. It talks about it specifically in Proverbs. Speech is a huge theme in Proverbs. And Proverbs emphasizes why your voice is so important. What you say, how you conduct yourself, how you speak to others, and to yourself as well, has so much power. Your words can build, they can break, they can curse, but they can also save. And save is a big thing, because your words, your speech, is what can lead others to Christ. And not only that, but your words reflect him. And once you accept him into your life and you take up your cross and you follow him, what you say is a representation of him. The Lord is our master. As his servants, we have to represent him well. And one of the ways that we can represent him well is to choose our words wisely. Because our words can do a lot of good, but they can also do a lot of harm. And a big way that we can watch our words is through monitoring our heart and monitoring what goes into our heart. Monitoring what we allow to influence us, what we surround ourselves with. And if you're not too sure if something is good or bad for your heart, ask him for discernment. We can always ask him. Ask him to reveal to you what is leading you away from him. What is leading you to act ungodly? What is leading you to misrepresent Christ? Just ask him, and he will reveal it to you. And when he does reveal it to you, pay attention. Don't just brush it off, because he will make it very clear to you. Ask him for wisdom, and he will generously give it to you. And he'll appreciate you asking too, because it shows that you are willing to work towards him. It shows that you are seeking him. It shows that you care. It shows that you understand his authority, that you fear him, that you respect him so much that you want to do right by him. And so, ask the Lord for discernment on what you should be guarding your heart against. If you have control over what you can expose yourself to, be very mindful. Choose wisdom above all else. Remember that it's okay to be sensitive. It's okay to show feelings. Guarding your heart does not mean to withhold yourself. It just simply means to be very careful of what you consume and what you let influence you.